And so it's like, I hear all the arguments against it, but I didn't hear anybody saying, what are we doing? Why is he out there? Why are the Warriors trying to win? There was none of that last night. There was only jubilation and an understanding that the moment that guy takes the court, you might see something special.
Some ball game last night.
Not bad.
Nice little game.
This is one of those days. I was driving back from some errands this morning, and there's a guy who lives around the corner from me who he's a friend, but he's a big sports fan. And so we drive by each other all the time because he lives right down the street. And usually it's just like one of those waves right through the car window. And this time, as I'm pulling up to go by him, the car slows down, and I immediately knew exactly, like, this was a roll down the window, just one sentence. Holy hell.
Yeah.
How about that? And then he was on his way off to take his kid to school. That was it. This was one of those days, though. It like, nothing needs to sort of be said sometimes, except for everything needs to be said.
Yeah, and what I said on our group thread was simply, this is the good stuff. And if you think about life, and, Steiny, you've lived a little longer than me, and me longer than Mark, and you're barely alive over there, you little zygote, Evan.
Yeah.
There are things already in your life you could look back on and say, that was about as good as it gets. Whether it's you pitching a great game at St. Mary's High, or, Double A in Walla Walla, or a second or third date, whatever it is, there are moments in your life where you can look back and say, that was awesome. That's the good stuff. And as a sports fan, you look at that game last night, whatever, play-in, down 13 to the Clippers. That's the good stuff right there. That's why we all, are such sports fans.
You want to say it with me?
I love the play-in.
Thank God for the play-in.
Thank God.
Thank God for the play-in.
Last night, when I took to the two knees and did my evening prayers to the Big G, as I call him, Big God, I said, you know what, God, forget the health of my family. Forget the prosperity that I've been lucky enough to enjoy. Forget the 800 thread count sheet that I snuggle up with every night. I just want to thank you, God, for the play-in game, the play-in tournament. And you know what? We'll see you on Friday, Big G.
Okay, here's what I thought of. And I was trying to make this point for the last 2 months. And, when we're talking about should Steph come back, should he not come back? And I finally remembered 1986. Michael Jordan missed the entire season. Now, he was in his prime, or just approaching his prime. Missed the whole season, came back, played 4 games. He only played like 18 regular season games. They play the Celtics in a 5-game series. They got swept, but that was the series where he had 49, 63 in the first 2 games, and it like announced him.
Launched him.
On the stage that the league was about to become Michael Jordan. So it's like, that's what you would have given up the possibility to even see if Steph doesn't come back.
And you remember that 40 years later.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the other thing I was thinking. So Curry, since the 2022 title, now has 3 more things you stack on the reel. The 50-point game against the Kings, the Olympic gold, and now last night's game. So, like, these are all going to be shown 25 years from now when they're doing the stuff about how great he was, and it's going to come, like, after the titles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the highlight reel now is no longer just a reel. It's going to have to be, like, coming up, the later 5 years, it's going to have to be a half an hour or an hour-long special. And when Steph eventually retires and comes back for the Chase Center statue, jersey, everything, rename the arena ceremony, it's going to probably be an hour-long pregame of just his highlights.
Hour?
I think there's got to, you know what?
Maybe
You start about 8 in the morning as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's got to be a Steph Curry week.
How about a year? I mean, like, we don't, this is just, there's never been anything like this. There never will be again, period. I actually, like, my play-in game date last night, my wife, lovely Christy, she and I, this is one of the things about which we argue, because she very much sees sports through the eyes of Bill Walsh. That was her first team, her favorite team, the 49ers, and she subscribes to a year too early rather than a year too late. And there are no exceptions to that. And so she will just sit there and be like, I don't know why you guys get so emotional and whimsical about all of this. Like, if they're not going to win anymore, he should go somewhere else. And I like heels dug in. You don't get it. You don't get it. This is different, period. Like, this is different. And this is, I mean, it's at the core of what so many of us have been saying all year. I don't care what's rational. I don't care about who's in the lottery. I don't care about DeBonsa. I don't care. I care about this. This, like what Dibs just said. It's the good stuff.
It's proof that like, Curry's been talking about chasing meaningful basketball games. Any game that he plays in is a meaningful basketball game.
That's a great point.
Any game. Proof is last night. It's a 9-10 game. It is the most meaningless of the postseason basketball games. And everyone is sitting here today feeling completely fulfilled by what the Warriors just did and what Curry did in the second half of that game. And so it's like, I hear all the arguments against it, but I didn't hear any of them last night. I didn't hear anybody saying, what are we doing? Why is he out there? Why are the Warriors trying to win? There was none of that last night. There was only jubilation and an understanding that the moment that guy takes the court, you might see something special.
Yeah, Mark makes a great point. And it's always going to be this way, though. The other side, if you're dug in, will say, guys, it was a play-in game.
Yep.
They will say, oh, so one of these every 3 months? That's what you want? Okay, that's great. You know what I mean? And I'm not here to say one's right and one's wrong because I've never seen a player like him out here in the Bay. I mean, he looked like a regular player for the first half last night.
The closest comp for me is I'm just looking at Jerry Rice's numbers, and Bill Walsh wasn't the one to say sayonara because it was the year 2000, and he was 38. So he goes to the Raiders, and he goes 83 catches, 92, and 63 as a 39, 40, and a 41-year-old, including a trip to the Super Bowl in 2002. So it's not always right to say a year too early as opposed to a year too late. I'm not saying that Steph's going to get them to the NBA Finals when he's 40. Yeah. He might, but just because he's 38 now doesn't mean he can't still be great at 41, 42.
Can we move back for a second? And I just want to ask a question in the room because you called it jubilation and caught up in all of that. Did we ever get any kind of information or an answer as to why he went to the locker room?
Someone said it was twice. I thought it was just in the first half.
I only saw the one.
Yeah.
But, we were just watching on TV, so we're at the whim of whatever they show us. I thought it was only once, but how amazing. That might be one of the best things you could say. Your second half was so good that we forgot to even ask you what was wrong in the first.
That's fair. Fair point. I mean, I don't think that there are porta potties courtside. I'm just saying.
Do you put a towel on the head if you just need to go potty?
Depends on if you're sweating. You've seen me a couple times late in our show where I go on talk back to Granny and say, Granny, I'm going to need to bow out here about 5 minutes early. It's getting a little bit dicey here and stuff. And
But to your point, I think there are performances that sort of make you forget about, like the double bang game.
Yep.
Curry rolled his ankle in that game. Curry got landed on, I think, on a drive, got hurt, and stayed in the game. But this is something that gets lost over the course of the game because of the finish and because of the outcome, because of how great he was as a whole. So I think you're completely right. When people think about this game, or if they do down the line, it's just going to be an afterthought because of how superhuman he was after.
Well, I think this is probably something that we address as a group tomorrow more than today because today is just too great.
Yeah.
But I was listening, Steiner, you were talking earlier about like what's left for tomorrow. So Steph left. Draymond late in the game had a non-contact knee tweak. You said you saw Kristaps look like he was limping.
No, it was reported after the game he was limping towards the locker room.
And maybe they all just, rub dirt on it and be the champions they are, and they do this again tomorrow night. But, yeah, that's a quick turnaround. And you were also talking about how much sort of relief and joy they showed, which is usually reserved for we did it.
Yeah.
And now we go on to the next round, and in a way they did, but they just have to go do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to have left, although at least they're feeling good about themselves, and the Suns feel awful about themselves.
I mean, the other thing to me is there's something human, real human about their 4-time champions. And I don't know, I didn't say it was a good thing or bad thing. They just want a play-in game to play Steph Curry and Draymond Green. They want a play-in game to play another play-in game, and they're clearly unbelievably gleeful. It clearly shows like they just want to play. Like it isn't, I don't think, Steph, I got to get 5 here. It's just to elongate that kind of stuff.
Petty King, I think it's because they heard everything. They heard everything. They heard everything all year long. And last night was a big, humongous STFU to everybody who said otherwise. And if, make it, okay, now you're the 9 seed or whatever, maybe you'll be the 8 seed. If that's not enough I don't think it was, I guess I don't think it was about that.
No, I think it was about 4 old guys going to a gym to play pickup, and there's just a young team there, and nobody's giving you a shot, and they're like, we still got a little something in the tank, and we know how to play.
Yeah.
And you just beat them, and now it's your court.
You beat
and
them,
here come the Suns.
You beat them down 13.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this earlier when Matt Thurin hits the 2 free throws. Under 10, you're down 98-85. And I don't know how many different times I was watching that game thinking, well, I don't like it. I'm not liking this.
Yeah.
Because they'd go from down 11 to down 4.
5 different times.
Okay, you cut it to 2, and then you're down 9 again. And down to 5, up to 11. They never were able to get that control. And then here comes old man Al, who was dreadful. And Steve said basically as much in the post game. And all of a sudden now, whap, 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 you're going to knock down 4 threes, and Steph's throwing it in from nowhere. And Draymond Green looked like, was it Bob McAdoo, the famous sweater, Steiny in the NBA? Is he one of the all-time great sweaters?
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know
Moses Malone.
Thank you.
Moses Malone
Draymond
also.
Green was working harder than he has in maybe 10 years on defense. It looked like 2017 Draymond, the way he was locking down Kawhi. And then all of a sudden, you get that 3, Steph, you get the lead. It's like, oh my God, they might actually do this. So I think that's partly where their joy comes from. They were left for dead.
It was just a great game.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily watch it and say, I was thinking, the Warriors are hanging around. And because it never got over 10 or 11. And I mean, look at the box score. Everybody who played for the Warriors played well or contributed positively. Every single player.
Steiny, you were talking, I'm sorry to bring this to the air, but apparently you're in a little bit of a slump in your golf game.
Yes.
But let me tell you why this is relevant right now. That's what I think last night was all about. No, not your golf game. But I bet somewhere along the road here, I don't know, when was the last time you broke 80 or the last time you broke 85?
It's been a little while.
It's been a little while.
Yeah.
But you'll do it again. And there'll be the thought as you walk to your car, still got it.
Yeah.
Not as often.
Right.
But I still got it. I think that's
a good analogy.
I think that's what last night was.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
You guys aren't going to do this for 2 months. I don't even know if you can do it tomorrow night. You couldn't even do it for 4 quarters.
It's a good analogy.
But for the 4th quarter, they got to tell the world, still got it.
Did Draymond Green go into that game thinking that he was going to shut Kawhi Leonard down in the? I'm sure he wanted to. He's done it in the past, but to do it again in that fashion, I didn't believe he could do it. I mean, he had him in jail for the entire 4. If he doesn't score a bucket, a little nothing bunny at the end of the game, he has a goose egg in the 4th quarter. Kawhi Leonard.
But and this is where the pros get it. So I think it was in the 1st quarter where Kawhi had the ball in the wing and Draymond was all over him. And Kawhi rose up and just made a bucket right on Draymond. Draymond was doing everything he could. And if Kawhi does that, it doesn't matter who guards him. But you still have to do that every single time so that the odds are less that he's going to have a big game. But he can make, Draymond knows that he's going to play a lot of great defense on Kawhi and probably with nothing to show for it, too. And you got to play through that.
Right. And also, I think that the Warriors did a very good job of not having it be just Draymond against Kawhi. They doubled him high a lot. They sent help early. They sent help late. And you mentioned the Brook Lopez 3 that he missed, which was late in the fourth quarter. The Warriors did mix up the coverages a lot. And then you think about the 2 plays Draymond made in the fourth quarter, the tip on the inbound, which is just elite defense to not only read it, but to tip it and to tip it to your guy. And then he gets on the floor and he comes up with another steal. So it was more than just like locking up Kawhi, who took 2 shots, by the way, in 8 minutes. The claw, only 2 shots. It was the other little things that the Warriors all did.
He was giving up. There were a lot of possessions where Kawhi just passed out. He just passed the ball. He's like, there's nothing here for me. And that, I would love everybody if you can go watch a continuous feed of when Draymond makes the last steal, where he picks his pocket, which essentially ended the game. That also came where Draymond picked him up full court. The fact, like, there was the offensive end where Draymond is setting the screen for Steph. He hits the 3, and then there's a timeout. But this is coming right on the heels of the steal, and then the pods play at the rim, and then he picks Kawhi up full court. The energy and the continuous motion to then end that with a picking of Kawhi Leonard's pocket, that was one of the more impressive defensive sort of series that I can remember seeing ever.